Okay, we'll start off with the money thing.
Okay.
That question.
What are your thoughts?
So this situation, it's kind of like, how do I talk to my partner about money when they might have a different value on money than I do?
It's always those values.
Like,
it's always those values.
You sound like...
I'm serious. You can have different beliefs, but if you have different values, you're going to get in a tricky situation.
Well, maybe it's not values. Maybe it's just if you and your partner have a different background or different habits with money, it's difficult because you came into the relationship more of a spender and I came in more of a saver, penny pincher, annoying person.
You came into the relationship more spoiled. That's what happened.
Wait.
You had your parents' little money, little cash flow. Your parents floating you, paying your rent for years.
I was a saver, but yes, at the same time.
I'm just saying it's easy to save when your parents are paying your bills. That's
100%. That's true. That is true.
So don't sit there and say, oh, Sherell's bad at saving money and I'm so good at it. You had all your bills taken care of.
Now, right now, you're seeing in real time.
Shut up.
A big conversation that we need to have.
I am going to dump this water on your lap.
No. No, that's true. Like, I just came out of college and I was like, hey, mom and dad, do I start paying my own rent now? Like, that was...
They're like, yes, you do.
And I was working...
You're an adult.
I was working part-time, so I didn't even know what it was like to work full-time and to pay for your own bills. So that's where I was coming from when we first got together.
And I was making minimum wage, less than minimum wage, because I was injured. I was on a workers' comp case, and when you get workers' comp, you get 2/3 of your actual pay. Mm-hmm. It sucks. Don't do workers' comp if you can help it, but I couldn't help it because I was injured. Yeah, so I had a couple $100 in my account, and you had tens of thousands of dollars in your account. And you were like, you're bad at money. And I'm like, you're a little bit spoiled.
So how did we start any sort of conversations? Because we just naturally were immature at the beginning of it, right? Like, yeah. I was passive aggressive, or like, oh, I'm paying for the groceries, but it's not quite equal, like that kind of stuff.
I paid for groceries.
No, I know, but there were just some times where I needed to pay for things because you literally were not making very much money because of your workers'
it was
comp.
Like I can't. It was like the days where it's like my cell phone is coming out the same day as my insurance, and we just got Chipotle. Like, I can't pay for everything.
No, totally.
I don't know. Here's the thing, and this applies for. Also, these are just our thoughts, so like, you don't have to listen to us, but you are listening to our podcast, so good for you. I don't know. I think that this applies to all big conversations, but when you're with somebody, it just depends on what point in the relationship you are at. Because if you're just seeing somebody, like, and you have no, like, I don't know, like, you're not committed to them in like a bigger way than this person that I'm seeing.
Okay, so for me, like, seeing somebody and dating is different. So if
that's what I'm saying.
I'm saying, like, if you're dating someone, because you can be dating someone, but you haven't had those big conversations about like
because
marriage or being together forever. Like, you're still testing the waters. So that's, for me, like, if you're there, maybe it's not time to have those conversations.
If you're just seeing somebody, I think that these conversations are a bit big. If you're dating somebody, like, you're committed to them and you're dating them, then I think it is important to have these conversations. But just know, like, there's a separation between you and them. Like, you and I were living together and there was still a separation between you and I. Because, you know, we weren't like, we didn't make that like commitment to be partners for life or anything like that. We were like dating each other, very serious about it. But also we like moved in like immediately after we started dating.
Yeah, I think we did have a pretty unique situation in terms of money and living together. But in the end, like, when we started to get on the same page about it, was when we were talking about engagement and like marriage in the future.
Yeah, but not everybody has that path. I think something that is important to remember is that you should just be curious when you have these conversations, because early on for us, I definitely felt like a judgment.
Yeah.
Like you weren't curious, you were annoyed.
I felt like I was right, you were wrong. We should both, be able to save and be wise with our money and like have the same mindset essentially. And that's just like the wrong perspective, because like if you're in a relationship, you have to know that the other person has something they're bringing to the table that is like enhancing to you, that's going to better you. Like you just have to like respect who they are and be curious about it, like you said.
Yeah, like ask questions, because that person is not beholden to you. Like I know we all care about our people, like our partners and all this, but like you can break up. Like they are not beholden to you, and if they are not financially bound to you, or like their future is not tied to your future, then I'm just saying, like, come at the conversation with curiosity, and also come at the conversation with respect, because they have been a grown-up before you got there.
Hopefully.
And
like I think all that's important too, if you are talking about being intentional about marriage, or just like intentional about being long term. I think that's also good stuff to have, like, because you don't want to have all this stuff building up inside of you of judging the other person or thinking, why do they think this way when they should think that way? Like you have your own perspective, and you have to really believe that they have a totally different life experience than you, and that they might have something to bring to the table that will open up your mind, because that's why you're together. So with being curious with your partner, I think it could happen at any stage, and it would be like safe just to like open up conversation. So if it has to do with money, for example, you could be like, and this is speaking of, I wish things happened like this with us. So it's kind of like things will happen how they happen.
yeah.
And you grow like with each other. But it could just be like, hey, I remember when I was a kid, I got these little allowances for doing chores, and I never did my chores. It was so funny how spoiled I was, or, how was money for you growing up, or like just kind of picking apart those pieces of like reminiscing about your childhood, seeing how things happened that way. Yeah.
And be genuinely curious, because then that like for me in that situation, it allowed me to be vulnerable without feeling judged. It allowed me to like laugh and reminisce and just like, I don't know, be open with you and show you who I was, and also learn about you. Because if you talk and you share about your life, then a lot of habits that we have as adults are going to start to make a lot of sense.
Yes. And I remember when things shifted and we started becoming healthier talking about it, there was a point when we were going to like In-N-Out and you ordered a drink, and I growing up,
you got so mad.
When I was growing up, we never got like, I won't say never, but it was just kind of like we didn't get a lot of extra drinks and sodas and stuff. And then like
you invited me to In-N-Out. You invited me on a date to In-N-Out, and I ordered a drink, and you got so pissed off.
Yeah, I don't know.
It makes sense.
Bad.
No, you don't have to feel bad. It's more of like an amusing thing. Yeah. You can feel however you feel. I'm just saying, I'm not like, isn't she crazy?
Thank you for giving me that grace.
I'm just saying, like, it makes sense given, who your parents are, how your mom grew up. Like,
yeah, they're kind of frugal, and it's kind of like we don't get a lot of extra things, and occasionally we get extra things. But to me, it was like a drink is an extra thing, like a lemonade or whatever. And so then after I was upset, it's like, okay, why do I feel this way? How was my childhood? And then you were like, oh, in my childhood, things like that didn't matter. Like we got what we wanted.
Yeah, it's like if you were invited out to eat, then you could eat. And it's kind of like a rude thing if you invite somebody to go out to eat and then you limit what they can have. It's like, well, why did you ask me then?
Yeah, and you taught me like to just enjoy things more, you know, to get what I want sometimes. And so
get the nicer quality things instead of the little off brands.
Okay. Called out.
Yeah, so be curious and be respectful. Just remember that, like, you know, they were functioning before you got to the scenes, and they're not a project for you to fix. Nobody likes that. Nobody feels safe with that. Nobody wants to be in a long-term relationship with somebody who just wants to fix them all the time.
Yeah. Yep.
Another thing I've been thinking about is, like, when you're having these conversations, like, you caring about how I felt about money pointed out to me, oh, you see, like, a future with me. You know, like, this isn't just for fun. This isn't just for, like, right now. Because there's, like, you have to, like, define the relationship. Like, are you guys, like, right now? Are you planning a future together? Like, where are you guys? Are you gonna move in?
It's almost like the reason that you care about somebody else, or the reason why you might be projecting onto them, judging them, is because, like, you want to be in unison with them. You want them to be someone you stick with.
Yeah, like, if you're starting to when you started to boss me around about my life, it was kind of like it put a smile on my face, even though it irritated me, because I knew that you wanted a future with me. And you're trying to, like, mold me into the partner that you wanted and mold us into a relationship that you wanted. And I was like, okay, she sees this as more than just a right now thing.
Yeah.